A very warm welcome for Eleonore Witoszynskyj, who is indeed a pioneer of the Eurythmics in Vienna. She taught until now, and she teaches still, over 45 years at the University of Music, and so she is a living proof of history and actual practice. But our conversation starts a little bit earlier. Even she is not all of the history. We heard Jacques Dalcroze today. We heard he was for the first time here in 1906. And our journey starts with 1909, I think, yes? Yeah. Eleonore, can you tell us a little bit about the first time he presented his method here?
Yes, this was in 1909, when Jacques Dalcroze had been invited to the University of Music and Performing Art, in former times Academy of Music and Performing Arts, in order to present his new method of music education.
Okay.
This performance must have been very impressive because the Academy decided to send one of its piano teachers to Hellerau in order to study the new method of music education.
So, and this was one of the famous Wiesenthal sisters at that time.
Yes, already known as dancer, together with her two sisters, especially Grete Wiesenthal.
Mm-hmm. And the person sent to Hellerau was Gertrude.
Gertrude.
Yeah, so they have similar names. Yeah. And what about Gertrude?
When Gertrude had finished her study in Hellerau, she started teaching at the Academy in 1914-15. At first, she taught the Dalcroze method to opera and drama classes, and later on also in performing classes and dance classes and in preparation classes for instrumentalists.
So Gertrude came back, and what about the school? Why did the Hellerau school move to Austria?
This happens, unfortunately, because of financial problems. Because after the war, the school tried to restart its program as before the war, but there were financial problems. Nevertheless, the school prepared also, as before, the presentations for their tours, and one day in October, the school had been invited to come to Vienna during the week of modern music for a performance of two pieces. The first was The Man and His Desire, as we see in this poster. We can still find this poster in the big concert hall, in the conductor's room.
Did you find that, Irmi? No.
Some of our
students find it accidentally.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Konzerthaus.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the second piece was The Wooden Prince by Bela Bartok.
Okay.
And this performance was very successful because as a result of this performance, the school had been invited to come to Austria, and because of the financial problems, the school agreed.
Okay, and what about the name? How became Hellerau Luxembourg?
Yes, they were offered an old castle, as we see it in the picture, and this school got the new name, New School for Rhythm, Music and Education of the Body, Hellerau Luxembourg. And this school offered 3 professional programs, a Eurythmic program, a gymnastic program, and a dance program.
And the head of the school, can you describe Christine Baer-Frisell?
Yes, the head of the school was a very impressive personality. She was a charismatic lady and had been educated as a singer and pianist in Dresden. And later she became pupil of Dalcroze in 1910-11. And she was also gifted in publicity because she wrote articles and she made presentations in international conferences. She organized even radio broadcasts, and she was also very interested in progressive education methods, as there is the method of Montessori. Mm-hmm. And she tried to combine eurythmic with the ideas of Montessori.
Yeah, of course, I think that she was one of the first, but I think nowadays also the ideas of Montessori have some impact on eurythmics in general, in the whole world, I suppose, huh?
This sounds as if it were today.
Yes. So which significant role did the movement play? Was there a change like compared to the Dalcroze system or the Dalcroze opinion?
Yes, there was a change because the school Hellerau Luxembourg tried to keep a balance between movement and music, and they considered eurythmic as music education through body and body education through movement.
So it was really more balance between movement and music. So for example, both could be the leader in certain settings.
And they tried to avoid the only servant role of music, of
movement,
body to the music.
Yeah, and what about creativity?
Yes, the main intention of the school of Hellerau Luxembourg was to educate young people in order to develop their creative abilities in music and movement. And they like to educate also self-demanded men, and this was their main intention.
Okay, and then during our conference we heard often already the name of Rosalia Kladek. As a dancer, as a choreographer, and as a teacher, could you start there in the, I think it was in the 20s when she started to study, is that true?
Yes, Rosalia Kladek played really a very important role in order to develop eurythmics in Austria. Mm-hmm. She had her own education in between 1921 and 24, and after she had finished her studies in Hellerau, she started teaching, and as well her career as a solo dancer. In
Here we see her.
Yes, we see her in the role of Lucifer, falling from heaven, I think.
I think we saw her also when she had her, was it the 80th or 90th birthday? I don't remember. We were afterwards in the Hotel Bristol, but before we saw at the Staatsoper a reproduction of her, I think it was Gabriel and then Lucifer, two archangels, no?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This happened, I think, this was her anniversary.
Yes, it was an anniversary.
I'm not sure
it was around
which one.
anniversary.
80,
yes.
80
Probably
maybe
80. Yeah.
Yes, but Rosalia Kladek became in 1930 the successor of Valeria Kratina, one of the teachers and head of the dance and gymnastics department in Hellerau Luxembourg. And she took part in competitions. We see her in this picture as a solo dancer, and she won prizes as well in solo dance 1933 in Warsaw, and in Paris she won also the second prize with her dance group Hellerau Luxembourg with the glass suite from Prokofiev.
And I think the first prize won Harald Kreuzberg, is that true?
No.
Which one was that?
Tisch,
Jos. I mixed them up,
yes.
sorry. But he was also in this group.
In this competition.
Yeah. Too, good.
Kurt Jos with the green tail.
So, and as the head of the gymnastics program, she was very creative. Again.
Yes, she was also interested in pedagogy.
Yes.
And for this reason, she created a new system of dance education, so-called modern dance education. And we have also a picture to give an impression of this. We see her in these pictures in a further education in Switzerland.
She looks so severe.
Yes.
She looks so severe, and I think people might have be a little bit scared. But when I talked to her, I found her only very, very shy. Probably this was really like a...
Yes, this was only the appearance.
Okay. Good. What happened during the Nazi time, Nazi regime? When and why was the program closed, the Eurythmics program?
Yes, during the 30s, when the nationalists came into power, at first in Germany, and then a couple of years later in Austria, Jewish students had to leave, at first Germany and then also Austria. And this caused problems for the school of Hellerau Luxembourg. And bit by bit, the students disappeared, and finally the school had to be closed.
So that was 39.
Yes, Kladek told us before the closure that she had been asked if she would be ready to continue, but under the head of a National Socialist director. Kladek couldn't agree with that because of the different ideas of men.
I think that was not the case for all Eurythmics people. I remember there was one Eurythmics teacher, and she wrote a letter to the other Eurythmics teachers. We could join the movement and could be, with the momentum, also National Socialists. Yeah, but I think nearly nobody.
I know the name, but
I
don't like to say it.
Yeah, there were some people, but this was a single.
She was different.
She was an exception of the rule.
Yes.
Anyway, Rosalia was very strong and didn't collaborate in any moment. No. So, and what was then? Then came the war. And then we had Brigitte Müller showing up. Brigitte Müller was also a Eurythmics person formed in Hellerau and in Berlin. Is that true?
She was also a very important person for the development of Eurythmics in Austria. She had her own education in Hellerau and later in Hellerau, Luxembourg. And after the early death of Christine Berfrisel, who died at the age of 46, Brigitte Müller became her successor already in the school of Hellerau Luxembourg. But after the closure of the school, she came to the Academy of Music and Performing Art in order to teach at first the dance classes in Eurythmics and solfège. And during the years 42 and 43, she tried to establish also a professional program for eurythmic teachers, but because of the war, at first the male students were called to the army, and then also the female students were called to the sanitary service. And for this reason, this program had to be unfortunately closed.
So then we have a time, intermediate time, and as we know, we celebrated our 50 years, 2009. So the institute, or the Eurythmics program started in 59. So this was really a big time. What did they do in the meantime, from the end of the war to 59? Brigitte Müller and Rosalia Kladek.
Yes, a long time without eurythmic program. But in 1952, when Rosalia Kladek became the head of the dance department of the academy, she started to convince Brigitte Müller to try it again, to open a second time a professional program for eurythmic teachers. But because of her disappointing experience, already during the war, Brigitte Müller didn't like this idea at first. But whoever knows Rosalia Kladek, knew Rosalia Kladek, finally she could convince Brigitte Müller to open a second time a professional program for eurythmic teachers. And Brigitte Müller started with only one student.
Who was that?
I don't want to tell the name.
Okay, so she was a personality.
She couldn't finish, therefore.
Okay. She was a personality that we call in German mit einem langen Atem, no? Rosalia Kladek.
Yes.
With a long breath. Do you say that in English too? That you are very perseverant and you have much time until you get your dreams come true, or your goals.
Yes, you can describe the situation like that.
She was then somehow stronger. You studied with both some time, and you knew both a lot of years. So can you describe a little bit the personality also of Brigitte Müller and how the classes were done?
Yes. During the first years, the study in this professional program for eurythmic teachers was not easy, not at all easy, because of the reason that the academy tried to save money. And for this reason, all students, a very new idea, I'd say. And for this reason, we all had to take part in already existing classes. This happened in music theory as well as in the professional dance classes with the dancers, and many of our colleagues dropped out for this reason, unfortunately. Yes.
It's not so easy to be compared to a dancer in movement classes and to a composer in theory classes.
Yes,
something else?
Was
there something else where you were with specialists together? But that's already enough, yeah?
We tried to survive.
Okay, here is a photo of Rosalia Kladek, her back to the spectator, and at the back on the other side we see Brigitte Müller watching the movements. So that was one of her specialties, really, to do the right music to the movement and to accompany.
To support and at the same time to stimulate and so on the movements in the class. And here we can see a typical situation from a certain point of view. The collaboration between these two experts, each in his certain subject.
Oh wait, I see somebody. Is this young lady there in the middle, Eleonore, is that true? Oh yes, that's her. And is that Ingrid Giel there on your
Yes,
side? Oh God.
she is also
yeah.
present.
Oh, she's here
Yeah,
too. Wonderful.
One of this group is already in the audience.
Oh yes. And I see Maud Paulison and I see Margit Schneider.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yes.
A lot of very famous teachers then. So Margit Schneider, unfortunately or naturally, she passed away last summer.
2 years ago.
Maud
she
Paulison
died.
Kasper, Rosalia Kladek, Eleonore Witoszynskyj, Brigitte Müller, Ingrid Giel, and Kreuzi.
Yeah,
Elisabeth Kreuzberger. Yeah?
And the person behind her is Elisabeth Stieber.
Ah, I didn't see. So I interrupted you, but I wanted to make this little presentation.
More,
You were talking
more sympathetic.
about the teachings you were talking.
Yes, especially these moments when Brigitte Müller used to accompany the class and Rosalia Kladek taught. This could happen every Saturday in the so-called training lesson, where we got this experience like the Cloire, like star, highlights, okay. Because of the high
Highlights
quality
of
of accompaniment of Brigitte Müller from the piano and sometimes from the drums.
So it was less music and movement, it was more musical movement or moved music. So it was more an entity and not an addition, yeah?
And the dialogue and unforgettable.
Very good. Oh, again, some photos.
Yes. Finally, 2 students finished their studies, still in 1964. All the others were disappeared. And these 2 students were Margit Schneider and me.
So you finished your studies, but both of you came back as teachers.
Yes, we came back. A couple of years we came back as teachers.
By the way, all the people that you saw here were also teachers. And Elisabeth Kreuzberger would become the head of the modern dance pedagogy.
The conservatory in Vienna.
Ingrid Giel became, we will hear later about that, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah?
We will
okay.
Come back to her.
Come back to that. So both of you
yes.
came back.
Yes. I was asked to establish a Eurythmics program for children. And Margit Schneider, a few years later, was asked to introduce Eurythmic for handicapped children. It was called at this time, now for special education.
And then you went to study with Maria Scheiblauer, is that true?
No, it was before my study in Vienna. I had the great chance, I have to say it, to go to Zurich at the conservatory. At this time, the head of this institution was Mimi Scheiblauer, a very famous professor for his subject. And she was so kind and invited me to come with her, to follow her through the week. That means that I was invited to take part in all levels of professional program. A big challenge for me, but nevertheless also very enriching experience and a very important experience, because in her lessons I got to know on one hand a version of Eurythmics where she tried to develop our musical competences And on the other hand, we could observe her in classes with children where she put the weight on other accents than in music education. That means she increased, for instance, the field of perception, including concentration and memory exercises and so on. And she increased the field of development of social competences and as well the field of creativity. And doing like that, she used music not as aim, but as a medium.
Yeah, okay, as a means.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but I think this was also already in the idea of une éducation pour la musique, par la musique. So it was also, Dalcroze had formulated that also.
Yes.
But she used it only then as a means for certain target groups.
Yes, that's right. And you can say that this was also already the idea of Emile Jacques Dalcroze, because he considered Eurythmic as education par la musique et pour la musique.
So in which way did the idea of Eurythmics change then? We had this temps, espace, energy, these three things. Do you want to talk about that?
No, because we have to.
We have 15 minutes left
to
talk.
Consider the time.
Okay, next question. Then we are already becoming university, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
This was in 1998 when we got a new law, and this law considered science and art as equal. And according to this new law, we had to reform all our studies and build the structure as there is the bachelor's, the master's, and the doctorate study. And as certificates for the Eurythmic teachers, they received the bachelor's of art, BA, after 4 years of study, and the Master of Arts, MA, after 2 years study.
So why 4 years? Because there were in Europe and also in the States, it's often that you have a 3 years bachelor program.
You are right, Paul. But in Austria, we have a law that you are not allowed to teach before a 4 years study. You have to finish at first 4 years study, and then you are permitted to teach. And this was the reason why we had to change this proposal of the Bologna Declaration. And so we did it, of course, in the sense of our students. Otherwise, this would have been a step back.
Yes. So we are again at a point where politics is like mixing it's deciding for us partly, but we are not sad about the 4 years, no? We liked that we have our students 4 years. And under head of studies, Irmgard Bankel, we are actually now having a new bachelor's and a new master's program. We are so proud. This was a process of 8 years.
Yes.
This is worth
Finally.
an applause. So
yes.
Yes,
Under the head of Irmgard Bankel,
yeah.
we are proud to have now a study which allows our students to choose among different possibilities. They can put a certain accent on one in the bachelor study on 2 different possibilities.
To
you see them
specialize,
all. They are mostly related to working fields, And in the master study, you can choose only one as accent, and you get 6 ICDS points for this specialization. And in the bachelor study, you get 12, because you can choose 2 different possibilities.
Yeah, and I think it's 9.
And you are happy, Paul, that you find among these. Go back, please.
I am personally very happy because there is this little solfège rythmique as the last line, and I was always so fond of Émile Jacques Dalcroze solfège. So somehow we managed to have it again in our studies. So I have to say our students have a brilliant ear training and composition and music theory program by a Austrian composer. He is wonderful. He makes them also compose like pieces in modern music, in 20th century styles. But the pedagogy of solfège rythmique solfège, is somehow something very special. And this is the method in the sense of the method, which I like, and so it's a wonderful thing, especially for me. And I hope that many students will take this specialization. Let's see.
Congratulations for number 10.
Thank you. So, and the master's thesis, I think this is one of your main, and your and Ralph Ellini's things that you do now in your work.
Yes.
Can you describe a little bit what happened since 2003 when the first new program was installed?
Yes. I'll try it. We started this master program in 2003, and between 2003 and 2014, there were 118 master students who finished their studies, and 90 of them wrote their master thesis and finished their study finally. And 20 students, nearly 20 students, are currently working on their thesis, and 8 students dropped out during this time.
Do you know how many people you coached?
No.
Were many, anyway.
Yes, there were some, yes.
There were some, she said. Okay.
And what is already important, perhaps, to say, 10% of the studies were published.
Yeah, there are different publishers, or is this
yes,
not? Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes, but it is also an important step to publish these things, what our students find during the research.
Good. So what comes? How is our school related to the development of Eurythmics and to the Jacques Dalcroze Institute, to Jacques Dalcroze's method, to his teachings?
This question I'm sometimes also asked by our students, and I try to express this in a graph. And if we follow the blue line, we can see the early beginning in the school of Hellerau with Émile Jacques Dalcroze. And then we come to the next step, the Schule Hellerau Luxembourg. We already mentioned it.
Probably we should also say that the Schule Hellerau, the first step after 1911, so the 25 to 39, Christine Berfrisel, Valerie Kratina, Ernst Ferran Freund, Gustav Güldenstein were all pupils of Jacques Dalcroze.
Yes,
they all made
pupil.
their exams. I think it was even called at that time diplôme. Although sometimes at the beginning the diploma was given after 1 week, as I know, yeah. So they were all friends, they were all were all musicians or dancers. They had all their own special things that they could bring to the movement. Yeah.
There is only one exception. Gustav Güldenstein only worked during summer schools in the school Hellerau Luxemburg.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Gustav Güldenstein.
The other three were permanent teachers.
Ernst Ferrand Freund is very famous for the first big work on improvisation, Die Improvisation, a historical work about improvisation in Western music. Gustav Güldenstein wrote a Harmonielehre, Gehörbildung, ear training, and an interesting book about the tonalities and their meanings, the meanings of the tonalities. Schule Hellerau Luxemburg, then Brigitte Müller, and do you continue?
Two very important professors, Brigitte Müller and Rosalia Klardek. And then we come to the next station, the Music Academy, and we already mentioned my name and Margit Schneider, who came into the institution, and between us two, they came other colleagues from other schools, and I tried to draw the different accents of these schools, because every school and every university had a certain accent on eurythmics, and altogether they brought these influences to the Music Academy in Vienna. One of the first to come was Ingrid Giel in 1970, and she had her education in eurythmics in the university in Berlin, and she did also the piano study, and in addition to that, she did the modern dance education system Klardek. And because of these two qualities, she became the successor of Brigitte Müller and as well the successor of Rosalia Klardek.
Is that all right, Ingrid, or do you? Yes, okay. Very good. And then the next head?
Yes, the next, in 1982, there were two colleagues to come to our university. Ralph Illini became the head of eurythmics department, and before he had his study in Hanover with Rudolf Konrad, and he did also the veterinary medicine and motor pedagogic as further education.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we step to the next person who is
also
there,
here.
Present.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is Angelika Hauser-Delephant since 1982. In 2002-03, she became the head of the Institute for Music and Movement and Music Therapy. And as we can read, she did a lot of additional studies in direction of artistic movement and so on and so on.
And also health, I would say healthcare too.
Yes.
Is that right, Angelika? A little bit, okay. Yeah, a little bit healthcare, but a little bit is better than nothing, okay?
It is not all, huh, Angelika?
No, it's not all.
It isn't all.
No.
We didn't all
We didn't
collect.
put everything on the, yeah.
Excuse.
Good, and the Viennese program, how would you, yeah, this one was there too, okay.
And now, the last step.
I hope not. Yeah.
No, to come to the University of Music in Vienna. It is Paul Hille since 1988. And as we can read, he did also a lot of studies before. And of course, the most important, the Diplôme supérieur de la méthode Jacques Dalcroze. Yes,
Yeah.
and
It
all
was very
these.
nice. So, thank you. So, how would you describe? Is it a Viennese melange, or what do we have?
I think
Is it like the coffee, which is the best from all of the world, and then with a little milk and a foam, you have to do a little bit, put a little bit spice, or how do you say?
I find your description very sympathetic. And in this picture, we see our team in front of the Schönbrunn Palace in 2011. This was the former place for our institute. And here we see a group of colleagues.
And you, these are a lot of eurythmics teachers, but also eurythmics teachers with special extra studies and extra things they studied. So, and specialists like a pianist,
yes,
and movers, and for example, also in inclusive education, we have specialists for percussionists, for all different sorts of faces that the eurythmics movement, also the working fields can get.
Yes.
Next one.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. And we stand for a group developing artistic and special pedagogic work,
Supporting scientific research,
developing the fields of application, and
preparing our students for the challenges of the future.
thank you very much.
Thank you.